Hello and welcome back to the American Patriots channel. I'm glad that you could join me here today. We have an important story to cover. It's a story that all Americans need to know about. The reason is we all need to know what our leaders are up to and how they're doing their jobs. We need to know when they're doing wrong so that we can hold them accountable for that. Now, this is a difficult story to hear, so for those of you who have a sensitive nature, you may not want to watch. You may want to turn the video off. But for the rest of you, here we go. The story starts with our main character, and his name is Zamai Ahmadi. Zamai Ahmadi is a 43-year-old aid worker who lives in Kabul. He works for Nutrition and Education International, NEI, which is a California-based company, and its main mission is to feed the hungry. Our story begins in the morning of August 29th, where Zamai got a phone call from his supervisor letting him know that he had forgotten his laptop computer at his home. So Zamai left his home, where he lives with 3 brothers and their families, and got in his white Toyota Corolla and headed over to the supervisor's home, picked up his laptop computer, and then on his way to work, picked up a couple of co-workers and took them into work as well. Here's an actual video from the security camera at Zamai's workplace showing them arriving at work and showing that the co-workers were carrying their laptop computers as well. That afternoon, Zamai headed outside with a security guard and unloaded some empty jugs from the trunk of his car. Now this was done all in the open where it was easy to see from the air. They turned on a water hose and water was gushing from the hose, and they went ahead and proceeded to fill the jugs with water and put them back in the trunk. Now the reason they did this is Zamai's family did not have a source of safe drinking water, and so he was just collecting some water to take home. During the 8 hours that the military was observing his activity, they noted that 2 men loaded heavy packages into the trunk of the car, but they weren't aware that those were jugs of water, even though it was very easy to see that they were. In fact, here's the actual video footage of them doing so. Later that afternoon, it became quitting time, and so Zamai and 3 co-workers got into the white Toyota Corolla. It's at this time that the military observed 4 men getting into the car, and they were carrying wrapped packages. And they considered those packages to be suspicious. If they'd only paid attention, they would have noticed that those are the same laptop computers that they had arrived with earlier that day. So Zamai went ahead and dropped off his 3 co-workers and then proceeded home himself. Once he arrived, the military observed that only 1 adult male approached the car. If they had only waited to see if any others approached the car, they would have noticed that children surrounded the car. These were Zamai's children, nieces, and nephews, and they were greeting him as they normally do every day. But instead, the military decided that this is the time to strike. They were convinced that the car was loaded with high explosives, that it was a car bomb, and it was going to be used against our military forces. So they launched a Hellfire missile from their drone. And this is the result. The white Toyota Corolla has been essentially obliterated. Now notice in this picture where it was parked. It was parked behind a red SUV. If it had been loaded with high explosives, they would have detonated as well, and that red SUV would not look like it does there. Notice that it is blackened on the back due to the fire caused by the Hellfire missile and the gasoline in the tank of the Corolla. And some of the windows are blown out as well, but that's all. If that car had been loaded with high explosives as the military thought, the SUV would look something more like this. In order to cover up what they had done, our military first said that there were no known civilian casualties. Well, in reality, they had just taken the life of 10 innocent people, including 3 adults and 7 children. Now, during the following pictures, I'm going to pause at each one so that you can study their faces and take in the gravity of the heinous act that our military has committed. This is Zamai Ahmadi and his family. Casualties include Zamai himself, who is pictured in the center, along with all of his 3 sons. Faisal, age 16 on the left, Farzad, age 12 in the center, and Zamir, age 20 on the right. In addition, the casualties include some of his nieces and nephews, Benjamin, age 6 on the left, and Armin, age 7 on the right. Also, Sumaya, age 3, Malika, also age 3, and Ayat, age 2. Not pictured is Ahmadi's cousin Nassar, age 30. Once the military realized the extent of the harm that they caused, they changed their story. They continued to make efforts to cover up what they had done. They said that there was clear evidence of a secondary explosion, proving that the car was packed with explosives, that it was a car bomb, and that they had killed an ISIS terrorist. Well, you saw the picture yourself. It didn't look like there was any secondary explosion to me, but there again, we're not experts, so what are we to say about it? Well, it turns out 3 explosives experts examined the evidence of that scene. They concluded that clearly a Hellfire missile had exploded because there were remnants of the missile found on the site. But all 3 concluded that there was no secondary explosion. And then the military further said that the cause of the civilian casualties was the secondary explosion. It wasn't their missile, surely not. Let's hear the story straight from them. Let's listen to what General Taylor had to say.
On Sunday, U.S. military forces conducted an unmanned over-the-horizon airstrike on a vehicle known to be an imminent ISIS-K threat. This self-defense strike successfully hit the target near Kabul airport. Significant secondary explosions from the targeted vehicle indicated the presence of a substantial amount of explosive material.
Now let's hear from General Milley, who is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. When you watch this video, pay close attention to his body language and the inflections of his voice. You'll notice at first that he sways back and forth a little bit, and then he taps on the table. You can tell he's uncomfortable about the subject. He knows what really happened, and yet he continues with the same false narrative, and he can do it looking you straight in the eye.
A couple of things. One is, as we always do on all of these things, we initiate an investigation. So we're reviewing all the video and all that. Said that, you know, what do we know, what do we don't know, what do we think, sort of thing. At the time, and I think this is still valid, we had very good intelligence that ISIS-K was preparing a specific type vehicle at a specific type location. We monitored that through various means, and all of the engagement criteria were being met. We went through the same level of rigor that we've done for years, and we took a strike. So that we did. Secondly, is we know that there were secondary explosions. Because there were secondary explosions, there's a reasonable conclusion to be made that there was explosives in that vehicle. The third thing is we know from a variety of other means that at least one of those people that were killed was an ISIS facilitator.
On the day following this atrocity, there was a mass funeral for all of the victims. Some of the victims were unrecognizable. Imagine if this had happened to your family. So just what did the military conclude about this heinous act? Did they admit fault in the taking of 10 innocent lives? Did they admit guilt in the destroying of several families? No, they did not. Instead, they continue the cover-up. And in addition, they made this horrendous comment.
I know it's a righteous strike. I know it's a righteous strike. I know it's a righteous strike.
So now you know the truth. I'm truly sorry to have to tell you such an unpleasant and unsettling story today, but I feel that it is necessary that we know exactly what is going on in our country. So tell your friends and tell your family to watch this video so they know what's going on as well. The incompetence of our military and our leaders is very bad. And then the cover-up to hide what they did is equally bad. When someone is negligent and they cause the death of another person, that's called manslaughter. If I were president, I would hold each and every one responsible for this event accountable. I would fire each and every one of them, and I would have them face court-martial, and if found guilty, spend time in prison. I only wish that our media covered this story somewhat better, but I felt that all the details need to get out to the American people. We need to speak up and require that those responsible are held accountable. And yet, where is our leader? Where is our president? Why is he not doing this for us? To seek out those that caused this harm, that caused the death of 10 innocent people. If he does nothing about it, it can happen again. And oh, by the way, this is just an example. We happen to catch on to what's happening in this incident, but there are many others that we don't know anything about. And yet, you see how they try to cover them up. So, a lot of times we are unaware of the mistakes, errors, and harm that our leaders are actually doing. We need to have change in America, and it starts with our president, Joe Biden. Where are you, Joe? Come on, don't tell us that you have complete confidence in these people. That's the wrong answer.